So, Craig, you've been in a bit of trouble with big tech lately. Tell me about it.
Well, firstly, my Facebook page has been for a number of years one of the most highly followed Facebook pages in the country. The last, I average over 1 million interactions, that's comments, likes and shares on Facebook's platform every month. That's 1 million a month. There's very few politicians that get anywhere near that. And the ABC actually did a bit of a study and found for most of the year I was the head of the Prime Minister. So that's the popularity of the page. That entire page has been sent down a memory hole. It's been obliterated. It's been the digital, where they used to burn the books. That's the digital equivalent of what has happened to my page. 10 years of posts and data and records have been obliterated. Even, I Googled something just today, and there was a post from Craig Kelly referring to something, and you actually click on that Google link and it takes you just to a blank page. So it's all been censored, all been obliterated. And the reason that Facebook have given is because they allege it as misinformation. But here's the thing. They sent me a text message on Monday morning saying, we've taken your Facebook page down for misinformation. Thanks very much. Have a nice day. That's actually how they finished it off, sort of thing. So I immediately went back and I said, look, okay, can you please tell me what post are you referring to? What in that post was allegedly misinformation, and why you believe it was misinformation? And they haven't even given me the courtesy of a reply. And yesterday they also took down my Instagram account. That's taken down. So as far as Facebook are concerned, I'm now officially an unperson that is unable to comment or have anything to do with their links, because and they you have to explain to me, well, now this wouldn't matter if Facebook didn't have the market dominance that they do. The reality of life and political discussion today is that Facebook hold the equivalent of the old town square, where you would walk down to the town square on a Friday afternoon or Saturday morning, you'd stand up on a soapbox and you'd argue your case for whatever it is. That was the old town square. Facebook now basically control that town square. So they have, I think, an obligation to ensure that there's freedom of speech on their platform. And to think that they can come into Australia, remember this is a foreign-owned company. So when they ban an Australian politician, they are interfering in the Australian political process. So as we come up to the next election campaign, Facebook are having a bet in the election campaign. They're interfering in the Australian election because they're black banning one candidate but allowing another candidate to post. Look, I think this is an affront to our democracy, and I believe that we need legislation to outlaw this conduct. It doesn't matter whether it's me. Look, you've got to have. It's the contest of ideas. Now, people may say, Craig Kelly, you're wrong, or you're wrong on this issue. That's fantastic. You have the debate. But what Facebook are doing here is saying we are the arbiters of truth. We are the Ministry of Truth from 1984. And if you disagree with our views, you'll be black banned. And I don't think that's something we have to fight against. It's something that is intolerable in a democratic country.
As a citizen, I'm personally very frightened about what's happening to you, and so many other people are, because you are an elected federal member of this country, which means that at least a lot of people want to hear your voice. And then you say how many interactions your Facebook pages has. It means that we want to hear what you have to say. And then this international company just comes in and say, nah, you can't hear it through Facebook anymore. You're going to have to find your own way. And let's be honest, there is no better way, unfortunately, than Facebook. So we're actually really frightened about this. What would you say to people who are feeling?
Well, I tell you, I'm more frightened for the future today than at any time I've been in my life. When I speak to, when I see what's going on with the censorship, when I speak to, and I, very fortunate, I get to speak to many highly credentialed, professors of medicine and immunologists from around the world. And when I speak to them and they tell me what their concerns are, and then they sort of say, "Look, I really can't say this publicly because I'll be black banned or I'll be censored or I'll be, and there's doctors all around the world that are being censored." It's a bloody frightening time. It really is. That's, and people say, "Oh, there's COVID and you've got to control the information." Look at every single thing, every single improvement in our society that we've had is because at some stage someone said, "You know what? That's actually wrong the way you're doing that. There's a better way of doing it." Mm-hmm. And you've had skeptics. Every single thing has come about from the time we came out of caves, as someone said, "The way you're doing it is wrong. There's a better way." And always remember, I think one of the great speeches of Menzies, he says, "Today's truth is often tomorrow's fiction." And you've got to be able to challenge and debate ideas. What's the phrase from John Stuart Mill? He says, "Even if you're wrong, you want to hear wrong ideas because that gives you a greater perception of the truth." And unfortunately, that seems to have been thrown out the window. And it was very disappointing to see some people saying, "Ha ha ha, sucked in, you've been kicked off Facebook. Ha ha, we don't want to hear what you say." Well, if you disagree with what I say, come along and debate it. Put up another Facebook post, right? Which many people have done, and they've gone, "Craig Kelly is wrong," or debunking Craig Kelly, and they put up their views. That I encourage that. You want the debate, but that apparently is not what we have in the more I see. I remember my George Orwell from 1984 from school, and the more I see where we are in 2021, the more it resembles, the works of 1984.
Sure does. So you're running as an independent, which obviously is very different than running under the massive brand of the Liberal Party, and now you've been literally cut off at the knees.
Sure.
So how are you going to combat this restriction that you now have?
Well, firstly, I'm not taking this restriction lying down. I've been speaking to lawyers today. We've got several legal avenues that, I know it's risky to doing, but we're going to put everything into this. We'll be looking at injunctions. We'll be looking at misuse of market power. And we'll also be looking especially at the Defamation Act. Just remember what they've said is that Craig Kelly, they actually put out a press release and sent a press release to the media saying that I had spread misinformation that was likely to cause imminent physical harm to people. Without even saying what the misinformation. The great irony of it is that all I've been doing is putting out published medical studies that are published in medical journals, the opinions of highly qualified experts from around the world, and stories, observational studies, commentary from other medical people, news stories from around the world. So the people spreading the misinformation are actually Facebook. And the people that are endangering people's health, right? What you want in a medical, people, you say, you have to give informed consent when you subject yourself to a medical treatment. Right? It's about informed consent. Now, how can you have informed consent if you're not hearing both sides of the debate? So the people spreading the misinformation are Facebook. Mm-hmm. They are the ones spreading dangerous misinformation. There's been countless stories from the States where people have gone and got the ivermectin treatment of Dr. Pierre Corey recommended when he spoke before under oath before the US Senate, right? In a parliamentary committee hearing under oath for the US Senate, recorded, he put that up and he talked about the importance of ivermectin and how successful he was having. Facebook, YouTube, the big tech giants have censored this. But yet other people are on record as saying, we heard Dr. Corey talk. And we went and heard of this ivermectin. We'd never heard it before, but we heard Dr. Corey through social media before he was shut down. And we then went and got that for our mum. And our mum survived. And that's what Facebook are shutting down. They are the ones. They are the ones putting lives at risk. Facebook have blood on their hands from the conduct that they have engaged in, from censoring doctors' opinions.
That's a big thing to say. And the thing that worries me, Craig, is that if people haven't been following your story like on your own channels, then they will see that media release and they will automatically think,
that's right, yeah,
are dangerous.
He's some crazy person, you know, spreading dangerous misinformation, when the truth is that he's saying that actually there's 51 studies, 52 studies in the medical literature on ivermectin. 51 of them show that it's highly effective. That's what he's saying. He's showing the data on the studies and the references and referring to. And here's an interview from Professor Peter McCullough. Who's a professor? Interview from Professor Harvey Risch, epidemiologist, professor at Yale University. Here's what he's saying, and they're saying this is dangerous misinformation. You know, this is, as I said, it's dark times. And I said there's several legal options that I've got, and I'm going to exercise every single one of them, because this is not the future that I want for my kids or anyone's kids, or this is not the future that I want for my country, and it's my watch. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to bloody well fight.
Thank God we have you. I speak for a lot of people over the last couple of days. So many people have said these words to me. Thank God we've got Craig. It's like, I don't know how we would be feeling right now if we didn't have, you actually enjoy fighting this stuff. Not that you enjoy what happens, but you are the right person to fight for yourself on our behalf, you know?
It's true. It's probably like I played rugby, was an old rugby union sort of front rower sort of thing. So it's sort of like, when they throw mud at you and you sort of like, they say, never, what's the book? And never wrestle with a pig in mud because you'll enjoy it, sort of thing.
I wonder when they're going to figure out that actually what they're doing to you encourages you to fight even harder. Like, when are they going to figure it out?
That's right, yeah. They picked the wrong little black duck sort of thing. As I said, I've packed my head in too many rugby scrums to just sort of turn up and sort of like walk away. Also, in this job, I can understand that the very first time you become the victim of a media pile-on, it's really like disconcerting sort of thing. You know, you think, oh my goodness, you walk out the door and you think everyone's looking at the news and everyone's pointing at you, and but when you realise that it's actually it doesn't hurt and you can fight on, it becomes like a water off a duck's back sort of thing. So
interesting. Well, I obviously am not happy that this is happening to you, but I think I speak for millions of Australians that it had to be someone, and it just so happens to be you. And I'm so glad that you have the fighting spirit, because what you're doing will change history for Australia. So I'm sorry to say, but I'm glad it's you. I'm glad it's you.
There's a few things that we're bubbling away in the background now. As an independent member of Parliament, I get the ability to introduce what they call private members' bills. Okay, so I think we've gone through. So I need a seconder for the bill, and then we need some pressure on getting the government to bring those particular bills on for a vote. And even if you don't, it creates public awareness of the issue. So the first bill I've got is the no vaccine passport bill. It is simply intolerable to think in our country that you can't walk around the streets and go into shopping centres, restaurants, cafes, football stadiums, the pub, unless you produce your medical papers. Now that just shouldn't be on, and that's the purpose. So it's a domestic vaccine passport with internal movements within Australia. That's got to be squashed on the head. So that's one bill that I'm putting up. The other one is what we work on as a copy again of what's in Texas and Florida, which is a bill which basically stops these social media giants, especially foreign social media giants, from censoring Australians engaging in political debate. That cannot be allowed to go on. Otherwise, it's a real threat to your democracy. It doesn't matter what happens if let's just say Facebook or Twitter was bought out by the Chinese, and the Chinese decided that One politician did their kowtowing and bowed down to China, and another politician in the same area. So they said, look, we've got to protect ourselves from Chinese. These Belt and Road deals are bad. And the Chinese tech manipulators shadow banned a person saying, we've got to be careful of China. We've got to watch what we do. We've got to defend ourselves. And the other one was being promoted and getting boosted on the algorithms from the Chinese because he was saying fine things about China. That should be abhorrent to every single Australian. But that can happen now.
Well,
there's nothing to stop that. There's nothing to stop that from happening now. So there's nothing to stop, say Twitter or especially Facebook, to say, well, we don't like this particular candidate, so we're going to shadow ban. We might not ban him, but we'll shadow ban. So his posts won't be distributed as far, or we'll put up like a fact check or misinformation thing across his posts. Mm-hmm. But the other candidate that we like, we'll put algorithms in to boost his post and send it all around. That's foreign interference in the Australian political system, and we just can't allow that. And that's one thing that the proposed bill I'm doing would stop. It also enable that people could be free to make political speech. And you should be able to free to express your political views as long as you're not inciting true violence. You should be able to make your political speech or your political points of views.
Totally.
I remember that's a bill that I'm working on at the moment. And again, we've got templates from some of the good governors over there in the US states that we can follow what they have done and adopt some of the legislation that they have.
Perfect. Well, I just want to clarify for people watching who might not know that even if your proposed bill gets seconded and it goes, you debate it and all that in Parliament, the government actually doesn't have to take it on. So I just want to say to the people watching that when the time is right, and it will happen in the next couple of weeks with the vaccine passport bill and then obviously the censorship bill, the public is going to have to get involved in creating a lot of pressure.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct. So just the technical processes are, I've got a draft of that bill at the moment. Now this is the thing, the draft of that bill was on my Facebook page. So here we had proposed legislation by an Australian Member of Parliament being proposed for the Australian House of Representatives, and Facebook have deleted it. You can't find it. It's been taken down. That's the situation that we're in. So that draft is done. So the first thing I need is a seconder. So you need another member of they have to be a member of the Australian House of Representatives in Canberra. So I know there's some good people there in the Parliament of Victoria that might second it, and there's some good people in the Senate that might second it, but I need someone in the House of Reps. So if we can find one of those, I know there's a few likely suspects, no names, no pack drill, but we'll work. We'll put some thumb screws there.
Yes.
And if we get a seconder, then it enables to be introduced into the Parliament, and I get to introduce the bill. But that doesn't guarantee that it gets debated and eventually voted on. Right. The government gets to control. So the government has the ability to say, thanks very much. Yeah, very interesting. We'll kick it in the long grass and quietly sort of like do the exact opposite. So what we'll need, once that gets introduced, we'd need a big campaign. Get out there and contact your Member of Parliament and say, when will this bill be debated in the Parliament and how are you going to vote?
Great. We will be 100% behind that. So everyone watching, stay tuned for that. Now, I'm just going to make one more conversation here. So the 15th of May, you have decided to speak at the Worldwide Freedom Rally.
I will be there.
Sydney.
I'll be there.
I will be there. Now, why are you doing this?
Because never before in my lifetime have the freedoms of Australians and people in Western democracies been threatened like they are today. Never before. So it's what did the great speech of Ronald Reagan, what he said, freedom, we don't inherit it. It doesn't come through down in our bloodstream. It doesn't get handed from one generation to the next. We've got to stand up and we've got to fight for it. Mm-hmm. And now's the time for people in Australia that are concerned about how our freedoms and our liberties are being eroded and taken away to stand up and have their voice count. And that's on the 15th. I think we've got the rallies in Sydney, Melbourne. I think it's in all the capital cities. There was one in London a couple of, I think it was last weekend or the weekend before,
Mm-hmm.
and you see the signs. There's millions of people out there. There's millions of people. So, don't think you'll turn up and you'll sort of be there by yourself. That's what the media will want to say. Come out to these rallies. Come and speak to people with familiar, similar ideas and that are similar, that love our country, that want to protect our country, and want to protect our freedom and our democracy. So the 15th, I hope to see as many people there as we possibly can.
I've heard a lot of people say that in these situations, like when tyrants are trying to take over or dictatorships are trying to take over, there's like a window of opportunity to fight. Would you say that we are in the middle of that window right now?
I think we are. Once you get these vaccine passports become accepted, you'll never get rid of them. And this, I've seen like some politicians over in the UK say, we'll just have them in temporarily, 2 weeks to flatten the curve sort of stuff, we'll have them in temporarily and we'll withdraw them. Once they get in, there's people, there's an agenda. These are not my words, these are words with one of the highest qualified medical people in the world said to me today. He said there's an agenda to stick stuff in every single arm of every single person of all ages in every single country. Not just once, multiple times. They want to engage in the largest medical experiment in the history of the world. That's what they want to engage in. Now, until we know the results of that, no one should be coerced to be forced to join that medical experiment. And that's simply all we're fighting for. We're saying there's other vaccines coming along that don't use this new and novel technique. We're in a very special situation here in Australia where we can learn from the mistakes from the rest of the world, and no one should be medically coerced to take any medication. It should be between you and your doctor.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it should be. And you may want to get a second opinion from another doctor, but that's how it should be. The idea that I see, some of my other colleagues in Palm saying, yes, go and take this medication or go and have this treatment or something. We're not doctors. We shouldn't be advocating, for or against any treatment other than saying, this is the evidence, these are the facts. Make sure you look at the evidence and make up your own mind in consultation with your doctor.
Makes sense. Well, to everyone watching, just so that you know, myself and Morgan will actually be in Sydney as well. So we'll all be there. It's going to be great. So thanks so much, Craig. We're going to keep in touch, and we are going to launch some massive campaigns to support your bills, and hopefully we can make an impact.
Yeah, just confirm that date. It's the Friday or the Saturday?
The 15th is a Saturday, I believe.
Saturday. Very good. Very good. Hyde Park. That's in the centre of, for those that don't know, it's in the centre of Sydney. So there's plenty of the train lines link up there sort of thing. So I look forward to seeing you there, Monica.